Welcome to a new short story in C#. This is a very special one. I narrated in English. Its name is From London to Tokyo, Cycling Across Europe and Asia. The idea for this story comes from a very nice experience I had yesterday. I was waiting at the railway station in St. Pölten for a train. St. Pölten is the capital of Lower Austria. It was windy, cold weather, temperatures below 0 centigrade, and I met a guy from England who was well equipped, warm clothing, a very good bicycle, a tour bicycle, obviously with bags and a tent. And he was also waiting for the train, just escaping from the Arctic headwind. And I spoke with him, and he told me that he is going to make a tour from London to Tokyo across Europe and Asia with his bicycle through this cold winter in Austria. And I was so much impressed. He was such a friendly guy with a very nice chat. And I decided to make a story about this and to show you something in C#, which is possibly new. First of all, the guy, his name is Ronan Devlin. He blogs also on Instagram. He cycled thousands of kilometers across Europe and Asia. He comes from London, goes to Tokyo, and I wish him very good luck for his journey. I'm quite sure that he will make it. From the technical point of view, this video is actually about the issue how to compute distances between locations using the class GeoCoordinate. GeoCoordinate is a class of the .NET framework, and it can be nicely used for computing distances. Well, what do you have to know about C# yet? First of all, you have to handle variables, well, naturally. How to use loops and if conditions should be known. String functions are used, for instance, index of, substring split, possibly even some more. And you should be capable of reading text files with the class StreamReader. We will use comma-separated value files, CSV. This should be fine. Okay, what are geocoordinates? As you know, you see the Earth on the right side. There is a grid of lines here. GeoCoordinate system is actually created to make it possible that every location on Earth is enabled to be specified by numbers. The format of the numbers can vary, it's different. But what we use actually is, first of all, longitude coordinate, vertical lines here. These are these lines. They have, of course, all the longitude circles have the same diameter and all run from the north to the south. Well, the values of the longitude coordinate is minus 180 degrees to plus 180 degrees. There must be somewhere a 0, and 0 is defined, as you possibly know, in Greenwich, London. There is the prime meridian. The other coordinate is the latitude. You see here the somehow horizontal lines. The diameters are different. In the north, the diameter of this latitude circle is less than at the equator, for instance. The values are runs from minus 90 degrees to plus 90. Plus 90 is in the north, minus 90 is in the south. And at the equator latitude, I guess it's this line here, it is defined to be 0. Okay, for the sake of completeness, there's also a third coordinate called the elevation. It's nothing more than the height above or below sea level. Well, when we measure a distance from London to Austria or to Tokyo, obviously it's negligible to use the elevation. If you're 100 meters higher or lower, doesn't make the difference when Ronan cycles thousands of other kilometers across Europe. Well, and the point is how to compute these distances between his the locations he visit in C#. But first of all, we stop this presentation and we switch to his how do you say this? From Polar Steps, he records his journey, his traveling progress. London to Tokyo, cycling across Europe and Asia. You see on the right side a map. He has started in Berstedt. I hope the pronunciation is well. In Wikipedia, I have a German system here, so I have to force my browser to use the English Wikipedia. Berstedt, wow, looks very nice. Somewhere in Kent, South England. On the very east of England. What you see is that in the English Wikipedia pages, as in the Germans as well, there are always the coordinates. This is north, is obviously the latitude, and the other one is the longitude, as we know from this one. Latitude, longitude, exactly. Well, so he starts at Berstedt. What is his next part? Folkestone. These are all places only spoken where I've never heard before. Folkestone. Let's have a look here. Folkestone. Folkestone is a port town, so it's at the coast, so he possibly took a ship. Looks very nice either. And on the other high side, Dunkirk. I had to look what this actually is. Didn't know the name. Dunkirk is this what you call in German Dünkirchen, a place which was very famous in World War II. In May 1940 it was possible, fortunately, to evacuate around 340,000 Allied soldiers from there. This was this famous hard order of the German High Command, which makes this possible. Dünkirchen, there was also a battle on an important place in World War II. Then he went already to Bruges. Bruges, Belgium. Bruges is the German word for Bruges is Brügge. I hope I spell it correctly. Yeah, also quite nice. And what you see is, that's the real reason why I browse all these places, is you always had a coordinate here, which we can use. When I continue to Samslag, I guess there's no German name in the Netherlands. Antwerpen. This is Bierkrog den Hulst. This is certainly not a city, but let's try it. I mean, it sounds like a place where I can buy beer. Bierkrog den Hulst, exactly. Let's have a look where it is. Whoop. Let's make it a little smaller. It's quite close to Brussels and Antwerp. This is of course the German map. So when we want to know where Bierkrog den Hulst is, that must be a nice place. It's somewhere in the countryside. What is here? Then we get the coordinates here. This is something, well, which you can use either. He's going on to Liege. Liege is Lüttich, famous football clubs. Dahlem, Germany, he crossed the border. Dahlem is, I didn't know either, but seems to be the German name. Winnerath, never heard about this. Koblenz, Koblenz is so nice. Whenever you're in the close to Koblenz, use the time to, or take your time to visit it. Frankfurt am Main, Frankfurt, the city of the bankers. Aschaffenburg, also well known. I think Grimm's brothers lived there or have at least, there are a lot of fairy tales which have to do with Aschaffenburg. Miltenberg, you see on the right side how he moved. Karlstadt, never heard this. Tauberbischofsheim, I think this is already Bayern, Bavaria. Tauberbischofsheim is important for the volleyball in Germany. Ansbach, Möttingen, this is certainly already Bayern. Donauwörth, certainly quite nice. Let's have a look what that one. Donauwörth. German is a sitting capital. Donau-Ries. Nice buildings. This is really in the center of Bavaria. Donauwörth. Ingolstadt, well-known city possibly, also for car industry. Bad Abbach, Schwarzach, Germany. And here comes Passau. Passau is very, very nice. It is already at the Austrian border. When we look, Passau it's exactly here, and this one is already Austria. And so this first place was Puchenau. Puchenau must be, I guess, in Upper Austria. Puchenau. Maybe expanded constraint of Urfa, quite too close to Linz, which is a rather, well, less big city. In Austria, Puchenau is here. St. Bataillon, Erla, I've never heard this in my whole life. Let's have a look where this is. St. Bataillon, Erla, the coordinates of St. Bataillon, Erla. It's already close to Lower Austria, possibly it is in Lower Austria, of the west border of Upper Austria, okay, in the so-called Mostviertel, so it's Lower Austria. And then Kilb. Kilb is close to, where is Kilb? I didn't know this either, but he told me, yeah, it's close to Melk. Melk is a very famous abbey and an important library. And then he continued to go to Vienna. This is where he is currently. As you see, his trip is planned to end on the 24th of December in Tokyo. Okay, what I did now is I want to compute the distances. Of course, when you look into this map, all these big circles are actually the places he visited. This, for instance, is Miltenberg. This is Karlstadt. All I do is to compute the B-line without the exact route, what Ronan did. So the distance, the B-line is of course a little bit shorter than the actual tour. And the plan is actually to get all the geocoordinates of all these places. And first of all, the goal is to make this a little bit more automatic, relatively automatic. What I did is, first of all, oops, where is my... Alright, here we are. I created a file, simple text file, where I listed all the places where he has been so far. As you see, the English name is always on the very left side. And if there is a German word for this one, I put it after a comma in a kind of second column. Dünkirchen, Brügge, and so on. I think in Germany and Austria, the only English word is actually Vienna from Wien. What I also did is to add my native city, St. Pölten. Here, this is the place where I meet Ronan. Okay, what I want to do now is to run through this file and to open exactly what we did here, to open the to open the English Wikipedia page and to extract these coordinates automatically. Let's start with Beerstedt. When we have to look up here is something about the correct pronunciation. Beerstedt is a village. There are two different pronunciations. Well, however. Okay, how can we extract these coordinates automatically? Well, the answer is, well, if you see your browser, you have also something like to view the source. You take the right menu button of your mouse, Seitenquelltext anzeigen is the German version of view source. And when you view it, you can look for 51.27. Let's have a look. 51.27. And you see that there is some JSON code embedded in this page. GeoCoordinates is the begin. Lat is the latitude. Lon is the longitude. And what we want is to extract automatically these values from the page. And what we hope is that all the places have a English Wikipedia page and that we can do this automatically. Well, what I did now is already to write a program in advance. Let's have a get geocoords from name. This is the first data acquisition project, the solution. Let's have a look what I've done. Let's start at the beginning. I added a few namespaces. First of all, this line is only important if you use a German Visual Studio. There is this nasty thing that make it smaller. There is this nasty thing that in the browser you always have a dot as separator in a decimal number. In German, unfortunately, there is this comma, which makes a lot of troubles and errors. And when I switch the current culture of my console application to English, then I'm quite sure that also this application uses the dot as the separator. Well, to download information from the internet, there's a fantastic class in C# which is called Web Client. Very easy to use. What I do here is the file where I collected the names is called rootlocations.txt. So I define the folder where all the stuff is stored. Rootlocations.txt is the name, the file with names, and the output files where I gather all the information from rootlocations.txt, this one, and the coordinates from the web pages should be called rootcoordinates.txt. What I do is I open my rootlocations.txt file with the stream reader and also the output file with the stream writer. Then I run through the input file until read it line per line, split it into parts, and as we saw, there are these two different kinds. Either I have just one word here, which is the English and German name, and this one has a different name in Bruges, has a different name in English and German. So there is this difference whether the string array has one or two elements. In case that I have just one, I add another separator, a comma separator at the very end to say, well, there is no German name. Okay, the English name of the location is in the very first part of this array. And then I add a URL of Wikipedia, the English site, plus location English. I define a string which would contain the whole stuff what we see in this browser. So all things, all the code which is downloaded and which you can see here should be in the string. Also this part. This is the goal. And there is this nice easy to use method download string. You just give the same what you type in the browser, you give as a input parameter, and what you get is a string where all this stuff is inside. Just in case that the homepage does not exist. I guess that the Dutch pub where you can with the beer or the Bierkrug, the host, or however you pronounce it, I guess it won't exist in the internet. Then we get a web exception. And the web exception, first of all, I write out to the console, download failed. And I add also a line in my output file, in the writer, that the download was not fine, and I continue with the next line. But in case that we find that we can download the file, I'm going to define the two strings let and lon. This is exactly what we can see here. I'm looking for this entry with a colon, because I know after this colon, before the comma, there is exactly the part I want to extract. The same for lon, between the colon and the closing curly bracket, I have the longitude. This is what I want to find out. So what I define is the string let, and this looks very a little bit weird. I use a verbatim string with this @ sign, and this one is actually only the escape sequence for the quotes. If I would have it like this one, it would be only LAT colon, and now I just have to use each quote I want to have in the string twice. So I have at all 3 quotes, and this defines my strings lat and lon. Okay, what I'm looking for, I know this is a very dirty code, but it's good enough to save some time from typing manually all the coordinates in a file. I look into the downloaded string. Downloaded was the stuff, was actually the result of download string. And I look for the string lat. In case that I find it, pos lat, the position will be unequal to -1. And then I have in this command a clear description. Pos lat is exactly the sign of the first quote. And what I'm looking for, this is a typo, this should be a colon. It's anyway a colon, sorry. I have to find where is this number starting, and I can do it by adding lat.length. This was exactly what we were looking for. With a colon. I add it to the position of the introducing quote and get the position of the very first number. Possibly there is even a space or whatever, but we can trim this away. And the comma at the very end we can find just with a simple index of, where we describe or where we specify the starting position for the search. There we search for the comma, and at the very end we pass exactly these string substring. I started pos lat number, and the length of the string is pos lat comma minus pos lat number. And this is what I transform to a double number to my latitude. The same is done for the longitude stuff. You see here all the coordinates. I search for lon. Oh, yeah, lon. This is exactly this string. Postland is the position of the introducing quote. Postland number is the position of where the number starts. I have a curly bracket, closing curly bracket at the very end. And everything what is between, I parse from Postland number, and the length is the difference from the position of the curly bracket and the very first digit. I parse this, I get a longitude, and actually then I'm quite fine. If this works well, I can format a string with a line. What was the line? The line was exactly this what I read from the input file. Line, what was I read from the, from this line, for instance, Ohne Berstedt or Dunkirk, Dünkirchen. This is my studio. Just possibly added with a trailing comma, and I write out all the latitude and the longitude coordinate. Writer.write line s. I write it to the file, and I also give on the console some message successfully added this place. Yeah, if something goes wrong, either the download fails, I just write a command that the download failed, or it could be also possible that our dirty way to find the latitude and the longitude coordinates fails. Then I write something like no coordinates found by, and also to the file that I can add the coordinates later manually. Okay, that's all. And what I do as well is press a key to open the generated file. So when everything is fine and I say, okay, I want to see what happened, I can call a system diagnostics process start. Output file, you will say, how does Windows know that it has to open an editor? The output file is rootcoordinates.txt, and the answer is simply that for these extension.txt, some application is associated, and this is automatically used when I use process start. Okay, so what we do is we run this program, we run through the lines of our file and try to open and download the latitude and the longitude of the English Wikipedia, from the English Wikipedia. Okay, let's start. Fire. Whittle. Takes some time. Interesting. Why does it take so long? Oops. And you see it doesn't work that bad. Successfully added. Okay, Bierkrog den Holst could not be downloaded. It's a pub. Interestingly, Dahlem, Karlstadt and Schwarzach didn't work. Possibly because the format is a little bit different. But this is no problem. We have saved actually quite a lot of time and also learned how to download information from the internet. When you say St. Pölten, Vienna is also very logical. They have almost the same latitude and, well, with a slightly different longitude. Press a key to open the generated file. I do that. And you see, the file root coordinates is opened. Okay, what we have to do now is to add all this stuff. Bierkrog den Holst. Where is the coordinate? I think I had it already. Wikipedia page. It is like that one. Bierkrog den Holst, right? I just copy it and add it to the file. Whoops. Now we have the coordinates here. And Dahlem has no coordinates found, Karlstadt, and so on. Actually, for these three villages, cities, I don't know, I also had a look how to create. So I had to to Google for these cities and to add the coordinates manually. This is something I had already done so far. And the result of this can be seen. I just closed this one in the program root get geocoords. You see, Dahlem has now a geocoordinate Schwarzach. And since there are no special German words for this, the second column is always empty. Karlstadt was the third one. Okay, so far so good. And now let's program the real program. We want to add the distances from Berstead, Folkestone to Dunkirk to Bruges, Samslag, Antwerp to see how far Ronan has cycled. What we can do is, or what we do at the very end is, of course, this page has also an overall kilometer counter, 1,656 kilometers. Has it done already in 6 countries. And we can see at the very end whether our result comes close to this 1,656. It should be a little bit shorter since we only use the B-line between locations. Okay, so let's start. Close this one. We want our studio. We open a new project. I say Ronan's tour. So first of all, I switched the culture info to English system to have no problem with this comma and dot as decimal number separator. This is done by using the namespace system globalization and switch culture info, the current culture, to an English culture info. This helps the double dot bars, doesn't make any stupid stuff. And at the very end I stop the program. Okay, what do we want to do? We want to read in this file and to compute the distance from Berstead to Folkestone. That means we need a geocoordinate for this one. This is the latitude, this is the longitude. You see it's almost 0 because it's close to Greenwich. And furthermore, possibly we also format the location nicely. We use the English name, and if there is a German name, we want to have this German name within brackets in the output. And then we want to have a list of all the kilometers from one location to the other, and also the entire location. Okay, so we have to read in this file, stream reader equals. Okay, it's not available because there is a missing using system.io. You can add it nicely in this way. Now we have a reader and we create a new stream reader for the file we want to read. At best I copy the full path from Notepad++, vollständigen Pfad kopieren, copy full path. Let's make a verbatim string like this. Yep. Verbatim string, nice, yeah. Okay, at the very end I already prepared that the reader is closed again. And here I read line by line until I reach the end of stream. String line equals reader dot readline. Okay. Okay, now I want to extract the geocoordinate from one line. Actually, geocoordinate, and you see there is a class geocoordinate, but it's not in this list of available classes. This is simply Because, as we see, let's switch to the browser. GeoCoordinate is a class. I googled for this one. Let's make it again. Just I look C# GeoCoordinate. You got usually the MSDN page with the description of the class, but you can also switch to the .NET API browser. What we use is this constructor. That's quite nice. Ah, wait, this is the German version. This is not what I wanted to have. Let's go back. Here we are. This is the English MSDN. I switch also to the .NET API browser, which is new. Let's type in again, GeoCoordinate. Didn't like my return. Here it is. Device location GeoCoordinate. What we can use is exactly this constructor initializes a new instance of the GeoCoordinate class from latitude and longitude data. And what we can use for the methods is this one. That's real nice. GetDistanceTo returns the distance between the latitude and longitude coordinates that are specified by this GeoCoordinate and another specified GeoCoordinate. Well, there's no example, but it's quite easy. We get the the meters. We use one instance of the GeoCoordinate and add and pass another GeoCoordinate instance, and then the distance is computed. Okay, so we need a GeoCoordinate. It's not available, but it's available in using system device location. And what happens is that there is still a red line for device. If this happens, there is certainly a reference missing to the corresponding assembly. So you go to Project, add a reference, in German Verweis hinzufügen, and you add system device right here, click OK, and you see the red line disappears. And when I type in GeoCoordinate, I find it as a hint. GeoCoordinate, call it coord equals. Okay, now it's computed. What I do is I want to extract this part into a separate method. This method should return GeoCoordinate. I called it analyze line. One input parameter is the line itself. This is just to encapsulate the functionality. And what I do here is that I call this method analyze line and pass parameter line. Okay, where can I find the latitude and the longitude? As you see, it is this is 0, or Dunkirk, parts 0, parts 1, 2, the latitude, and parts 3 is the longitude. So the latitude equals double.parse from, first of all I have to split it, of course, string parts equals line.split with a comma delimiter. Right, the latitude is parts 2 and the longitude equals double.parse parts 3. Okay, and all what we do is to return a new GeoCoordinate which has the latitude and the longitude. Longitude, not long. Longitude. Okay. So we get the line. What we can also do is to format the parts, the English name, location English is of course part 0. And in case that the second part is empty, now if it's empty it's fine, but in case that the second part is not empty, I can check this by dot length. Come on, length equals is greater than 0. Then I can add the location. Wait, I make it like this one. I make an output parameter where I get the full location name. Full location. I would better make it like this. The full location is always part 0, and if there is a second part, we full location plus equals, we add a bracket with parts 1, this is the German name then, and the closing bracket. That's nice. So the format is actually English and German name. No, not bad. Okay, this is the output parameter. That means we have also to specify this is the name. Since we are in Visual Studio 2017, we can use a nice feature, specify out and then make an inline declaration, out string name. If you have 2015, you have to use this string name to the previous line, and it would look like this one. This is Visual Studio 2015, and in 2017 you can even write it inline. Okay, this is the GeoCoordinate. So we have the coordinate of the this line. We have to we want to count the overall distance. So let's set the distance to 0 at the beginning. Yeah, at the very beginning we are in Bärstedt. So I guess we need at the very first line we have to read somehow special, because we must always subtract coordinates. So let's call this one, this is the previous location. When we do this, then we will read the line of Bärstedt, which is the starting point. Then we read the next one, and we compute the distance from the next one to the previous one. And when we've done this, we also switch that the next location gets the previous location for the very next computation with the distance to Dunkirk. Okay, previous location, this is the code. Yep, let's call it the next one. Outstring name is, doesn't like this because this is already the first one. This is somehow special actually. Let's write console write line. Starting point. Start at plus name. This Bärstedt, of course. Okay, and this one is, we need a different name. Location name. Actually, at the very end, we want to have something like write line. Let's make it as a interpolated strings. We want to have the location name. Oops. Location name. And then we need the distance yeah, from one location to the next one. And this is not a place where you can compute this. Double. How do we call this? Dist between locations equals next dot get distance to. We always compute it to the previous one. Let's call this variable possibly previous to keep it shorter. Get distance to previous. Okay, so we output this distance. Okay, we could write the dist between locations, and then we have also the overall distance. The overall distance is certainly distance plus equals the distance between the locations. We want to output this in kilometers. And I think the method itself returns it in meters, so the value should be too high at the very beginning. What is still missing, we read the previous, the starting bested as the previous geocoordinate, then the next line, right here, and when we output the distance between the locations, we have to switch that the previous, for the next run in the loop, the previous location is the next location of this run. So previous, yeah, we read, for instance, Dunkirk, and Dunkirk is for the very next part of the route, the previous one. This should possibly work. If it does not work, I will notice it anyway. So I start the overall stuff. Dun, dun, dun. What do we see? Explosion. That's interesting. Nothing happens. Debugger. Alle unterbrechen. Interesting. We are right here. That's funny. Ah, my God. Console read line. I read from the console, of course. I read from the file. Reader.readline. Fantastic. Did it do this error here as well? No. Reader.readline. Start again. With a lot of stuff. Let's have a look what happened. Berstedt is the first place, okay? Then Folkestone. I see that the formatting of the German names works quite well. But for 46,241 meters, then a lot of fracture, which I don't want to have, and the overall is possibly added nicely. So first of all, we want to have kilometers and possibly no fracture part of the number. So how can we do this? I would recommend to write an overall method static double 2 kilometers. We pass a value, and this method should return the value divided by 1000. Here is the suffix for double values. In our case, it wouldn't be necessary since the nominator or the denominator is anyway double. But what we want to do is to round this value to 0 decimal numbers. Yeah. And now instead of pausing to write this between locations, we call the method 2 kilometer. Sub 2 kilometer here as well. Start. That looks already much nicer. Folkestone 46 kilometers, 85, and so on. 49. Would be nice if there is more alignment in the output, and this can be achieved quite easily. For instance, you want to have 25, a padding of 25 characters. I think 20, possibly even 20 are possible. Yeah, furthermore, the kilometers are possibly just 6 characters long and 2 kilometer distance. This one possible as well. Let's give it a trial. I started. All right, now it is. Looks a bit strange. It's right aligned. Everything is right aligned. Let's make the location name left aligned. -20. It's a little funny that this minus governs whether it is left or right aligned. Let's start. Yeah, now it's nice. Go up to Berstedt. We start 46 kilometers in England. Oops. And we see the kilometers between the locations. 85, 63 and so on. And this one is the entire kilometer thing. Yeah, that's also nice. 56 kilometers is distance between St. Pölten and Vienna. Yeah, quite nice. So actually we have the impression that Ronan did so far 1,363 kilometers. Now we make a slight test and we change to the browser, to London to Tokyo. Yeah, okay. In fact, it did 1,656. Why is the difference when we look, for instance, into this part? As I showed, Miltenberg, Karlstadt, he did a lot of much more cycling across Europe, and I just measure only the B line. Possibly in Austria it's not that extreme because, but also it's a very curvy route, St. Pölten, Vienna, right? Okay, that's it. What we've learned from the whole lesson is that we can use GetDistanceTo to compute the distance between locations on the Earth. What we used is GeoCoordinate, quite important. When you want to use GeoCoordinate, you only have to add system device location and you have to add a reference to this assembly because otherwise it's not available, system device. What you can see as well is that system device offers quite a lot of other stuff which can be helpful. This is just GetDistanceTo, but system location is really worth to be looked into. There are a lot of classes. You can add GeoCoordinate watcher. You have even when you have a mobile phone or a notebook which tracks its own position, you can write applications where you directly online measure your distance at a certain accuracy. GeoCoordinate is really just a very, very simple class. You have also the altitude. You can even define a course, nice for shipping. And you can also measure the speed in case that your computer device is able to track its own position. Okay, last but not least, thank you very much for attending, and much more important, I wish Ronan Devlin the very best for his journey. I will track where he's currently and wish him a nice experiences and good luck. Godspeed. Bye.